Hi there guys, welcome to another episode of the Cover Zero Show with me, your host Simon Conboy. This episode will be another in this series of 10-year franchise reviews. I think this series has been really interesting to research. I'm hoping you guys enjoy it. This episode will be focused on the NFC North's Green Bay Packers, of course one of the model franchises in the NFL. For this series, I will be breaking down the team's record over the last decade, as well as any coaching changes that have occurred in that time, breaking down the amount of playoff wins, and then breaking down the last 10 years worth of draft. I'll explain that in a bit more detail once I get to that section of the video. So the Packers in the last 10 years have been one of the most consistent franchises. They've amassed 106 wins, 53 losses, and a tie. You know, if you're averaging 10 wins a season, you're doing a great job. Of course, it's been Ted Thompson and Mike McCarthy steering the ship for that entire time frame. I mean, it's helped to have the quarterbacks they've had. But with 5 division titles, 9 playoff appearances, and a Super Bowl win, as well as a Super Bowl loss, it's hard to critique the job they've done in that regard. Clearly this team has been successful. So let's see if the draft has been one of the major reasons for that. It's one of the primary reasons I've done this exercise in the first place. So the way I'm doing this, I'm looking at the first 3 rounds, due to that being where I believe teams should be looking to get starters or contributors. Anything after that, the 4th through 7th, I'm looking for value picks, anyone who becomes a contributor. Honestly, I've really learned from this. First off, drafting is far more of a crapshoot than I believed, and I knew it was a massive crapshoot. 4 through 7, incredibly unlikely that those players actually do anything. It's actually quite sad in a way. So any of those will be value. That will add +1 to the team's score. Similar to what I deem a solid pick, I am being more critical of first rounders and will give my reasons for the grade I give to each first rounder. If they're middling kind of picks, they will not affect the score, and if they are a bust, a total disaster, then it will take 1 from that team's score, and we'll have a total at the end. And at the end of the week, I'm going to, in the weekly review, have a league table demonstrating which teams have the best score, the scores in order, and then teams' win records. Hopefully we'll see whether there is a correlation between good drafting and success in regards to wins and losses. So, Packers 2007 draft. Their first round pick was Justin Harrell, the defensive lineman, at 16. A bust, did absolutely nothing with his career. In the second, Brandon Jackson, the running back, he was also a bust, did very little. In the third, James Jones, the wide receiver, he was a solid player for them. Didn't do too much after leaving Green Bay, but he has to be given a solid for his production whilst he was there. And the third, Aaron Rouse, the defensive back, he goes down as a bust, did nothing in his career. And then we've got a value pick in round 6 with Desmond Bishop, who's a solid linebacker for them, particularly for a player picked in that round. This draft class will be in consideration. I'm going to do a top 10 best and worst draft classes, or my favourite and least favourite of the last 10 years on Friday. This one may be a contender for the worst. The 2008 draft. No first rounder. In the second round, they've drafted Jordy Nelson. I mean, that home run pick, great job. He's been absolutely fantastic for them. In the second also, Brian Brome, the quarterback, he was a bust. He did absolutely nothing. A defensive back called Pat Lee, I don't even remember this fellow, so he's a bust. He did nothing. In the third, Jermichael Finley, the tight end. Unfortunate injury he suffered, but a solid pick overall. Bit of bad luck there, but has to go down as a solid for what he did do when he was healthy. In the fourth, Josh Sitton, the multi-time Pro Bowler guard. Great value pick there, so an improvement that year. Then moving on to the 2009 draft, we've got BJ Raji at the 9th overall. I've gone for mediocre here. He had some really good years. Of course, he retired pretty early in his career, made a Pro Bowl. Probably a disappointment considering where he was drafted, but I can't quite call him a bust. He was integral to their defense at times and had a pretty solid career when he was playing. So I'm not grading this a solid or a bust. It's just in the middle. This is one of the tougher individual players to grade there. Also in the first, later on that year, Clay Matthews. Now I know he's fell under a fair bit of criticism the last couple of years. His play has fell off somewhat noticeably, whether that's due to injuries, I'm not so sure. However, being picked toward the end of the first round, it's a great pick. Early in his career was one of the best defenders in the NFL, so superb job there. No seconds or thirds. In the fourth, they picked TJ Lang, the guard who has just joined the Lions. He was a very good player for them, so that goes down as a value pick. Then got the 2010 draft. In the first round, Brian Bulaga, the 23rd overall pick at offensive tackle. Mediocre player. Not quite a bust. If he was higher up, selecting top 15 or so, I'd probably have him as a bust, but I think mediocre. He's had an okay career. In the second, Mike Neal, solid defensive lineman, goes down as a solid pick. Morgan Burnett in the third, that's another solid pick. Good job there. And in the sixth, James Starks, the running back, unspectacular player, but great value in the sixth round. So that's a pretty solid draft there by the Packers. The 2011 class, Derek Sherrod with the 32nd pick, the offensive tackle. He was a bust, did absolutely nothing in his career. In the second, Randall Cobb, that's a solid pick. I think he's had a good career with the Packers. Great second round pick, really. I think that's the kind of player you're after. In the third, Alex Green. That's a bust. Did absolutely nothing. In the fourth, Devon House, the defensive back. I think that's a good value pick in the fourth round. He's been a pretty solid, if unspectacular, NFL player. 2012, Nick Perry, the outside backer. If you'd asked me before this season, I'd have said bust happily. I've put it as solid. He was great last year. He's just signed a big deal. It's a tough one, but I'm going to go with solid at this point. But I can see why I maybe should have hedged my bets and went with mediocre here. But solid is what I'm going with. Jarrell Worthy, the D lineman in round 2, he was a bust. Casey Hayward, the defensive back, also in round 2. That's a really good pick. Had a great year last season with the Chargers. I thought he was the best corner on the Packers the years before that. I was surprised they let him go. That's a really, really good pick. And in the fourth, Mike Daniels. Now this is an example of great value. He is a very, very good player, even if not a lot of people necessarily know who he is. Shame on them. He's fun to watch as well. Really good D lineman. Like him a lot. Great pick. And 2013, we've got Dayton Jones, newly signed Viking, with the 26th pick. He was a bust for them. Eddie Lacy in round 2. I gave this a solid. I'm thinking maybe I should go mediocre. I don't know. Based on what I gave another player who's actually, I feel, had a career with some parallels, I'm going to mark this one down to just mediocre. Obviously, a couple of great seasons, and then since then, nothing. So, yeah, it's going to go as a mediocre pick. In the fourth, David Bakhtiari, the offensive tackle. Brilliant value. Currently one of the best tackles in the league. Superb pass protector. And in the fifth, Micah Hyde, the do-it-all defensive back. Another fantastic value pick there, even if he has just joined the Bills. But he was a good player for them. The 2014 draft. I really, really like this draft. So you got Ha Clinton-Dix, really developed into one of the top safeties in the league at this point. Really good player. 21st overall pick. That's solid. Safeties are hard to find. Good job there. In the second, Devontae Adams, wide receiver. Been a bit up and down, but I think you've got to say he's been a solid player for a second round pick. So good job there. Thornton, linebacker. It's a bust. I don't even know who that is. But I've definitely put bust there. And yeah, I don't know who he is. I agree. And the third, Richard Rodgers, the tight end. He's been pretty solid for them, to be honest. For a third round, if he was any higher, I'd maybe go with mediocre. But for a third rounder, I'm gone with solid. And in the fifth, Corey Linsley, the centre, that was a value pick. He's been quite good when he's been healthy for them. Starting O-lineman in round 5. I mean, I'm always going to put that as value. Unless it's a terrible starting lineman. And he's not. 2015, we've got Demarius Randall, defensive back. I've got mediocre there. As I've said in my previous videos, last 3 years I'm a little bit more generous or willing to sit on the fence because there may not be enough tape or enough consistency for me to say one way or the other, particularly with the last 2 years. I think that's fair and won't skew stats too much. So that's gone down as mediocre. Quentin Rollins, defensive back, same story there. I've got Ty Montgomery down as solid, partly because I think he's a pretty solid receiver, and last year he actually filled in admirably at running back. So that versatility automatically for a third rounder will give them a solid there, and he's been effective in the roles they've given him. And last year's draft, we've got Kenny Clark, the defensive lineman, Jason Spriggs, the offensive tackle, and Kyler Fackrell, an outside backer. Don't have enough information on these guys for me to make a decision that I would be happy with at this point. So the totals for the Packers, we've got 13, well, I'll mark that down to 12 because Eddie Lacy I've struck, 12 solid players, one absolute home run. There's probably more than that. I could probably put Bakhtiari and Mike Daniels in there as well. But 13 really good picks, 10 value picks. So that's 23 players they've managed to obtain through the draft. 23. Doesn't actually sound an enormous amount in 10 years, but it's actually a lot better than a lot of franchises have done. 9 clear busts. In fact, it's even more than that. Yeah, 24. So yeah, that's a really good job. No, 25. Yeah, really good job there. So they've got a score of plus 16. One of the best scores in the league, as you might expect. In the first round, we've got 10 total picks. Not done a great job in the first round. 3 busts, 3 solid players, and 4 that are mediocre to undecided. So that's really been the one place where they haven't excelled. Of course, they have been picking towards the end of the first round. Of course, the caliber of player available isn't always as high. That's really the one area where this team has shone, is definitely in those late round picks. They've done a great job drafting receivers. Obviously, part of that is having Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback helps make those players look good. But I think they know what they want from their receivers and do a good job finding them. Great job with offensive linemen. Found some really good value there. Bakhtiari, Josh Sitton, TJ Lang. That's all really good stuff. It's really helped keep this team competitive over the last 10 years. One of the highest scoring teams, as you might expect. In this, they do have a reputation of being great at drafting and developing players. This exercise has probably demonstrated that's likely the case, and it has translated to success. So what do you guys think? You think there's any of these that I've graded incorrectly? Any players I've missed out that you think maybe should have been value? Let me know in the comments, on the Facebook page, on Twitter. I'll do my best to get back to absolutely everybody. What do you think of the Packers? Do you think they're as good as people have made out of this draft process? It's certainly open to debate. I think they've done a great job. I really do. And it's one of the reasons this is one of the model franchises in this league. It's been a pleasure. Really enjoyed doing these videos. If you enjoyed this, like, share, subscribe, all that good stuff. Check out the Patreon. Check out some more of my videos. As I say, I'm doing this for every single team. It's been an absolute pleasure. Really enjoying this series so far. And go Bucks.